Hi everyone, welcome back to my beginners watercolour course. Right, I thought the next video would be looking at painting a cottage. Now this has got lots of different elements in it. It's got trees, it's got a lot of foliage, which is often a problem for beginners on how to paint shrubs, trees and things like that. Green's quite a tricky colour to deal with in paintings. But this has got it all in. It's got trees, it's got the cottage, it's got water, so we can, we'll be dealing with a few problems here. Let me just go through my checklist. This one, I guess, is you've already sort of completed a more simple landscape. So this one is a little bit more difficult. It's got a lot more elements in it. So it could pose a few more problems, but you can paint it however you like. I've used 6 colours in this painting, but if you want to just paint it using the 3 primaries, that's fine. Again, you could do an awful lot with those, and you can create it would paint this scene beautifully. So feel free to do that. The colours I'll be using today are cobalt blue, cerulean blue, raw sienna, lemon yellow, burnt sienna and raw umber. In this video we've got some good techniques for people to learn. We've got a wet into wet techniques, which we'll be doing in the foliage, so we'll be dropping colour into the wet washes and letting it disperse. So that's a very useful technique to learn, and you'll see that quite close up. Also, I'll be lifting out colour for the reflection of the cottage in the river. This is quite an impressionistic scene. It took me about an hour to paint, so it's quite a quick painting, but there are lots of things you'll learn from it. So just give it a go. I look forward to seeing your efforts and seeing how well you do. Hope I don't sound too sort of patronising in the video. I certainly don't mean to, but I do appreciate I'm dealing with people of all abilities, so I'll try and pitch it to everyone. But just give me your comments and let me know how it goes. But get your pens and paper out and get painting. Okay, how I start first is to look at the picture, and basically it doesn't take too much to work out what colours we're going to need. I'm going to paint a nice blue sky, and then we're going to be looking at the trees, and we want a variation. We don't want bright vivid greens because it will make the painting, it will look wrong in the painting. We want more subtle greens for the tree and the background trees, and then we've got it's like a reddish roof, tile on the roof, and the water and the colour for the water. So if I mix this sort of first of all, okay, we'll do the blue for the sky. So I'm just putting a little bit of cobalt blue and a little bit of cerulean blue together, and that's essentially all I need from a sky. So I'll put that to one side. Now I've got 2 pots of water, as I explained before, so just rinse the brush out in one, then go to the clean water and rinse it again. So I've got a nice clean brush to lift my next colour out with. So I know I'm going to looking at the roof, I need like a reddish brown, so I'm going to take a little bit of burnt sienna, put some in there, maybe a little bit more. So we've got some burnt sienna, and then I want a little bit of light red in there. So basically I'm getting some pools of colour I can mix into here as I progress. And then what should I have? Let's have some lemon yellow for making some greens. Okay, there's a bit of a start. So I've got my washing my brush out in the dirty water and then back into the clean water. So I've got a nice clean brush, because there's no point launching into the sky with brown on my brush because it will just taint the colour. So let's get on and paint the sky. So for that I'm just going to use, in fact what I might do is just use my mister bottle just to soften it slightly. So I'm going to give a little spray over the paper with this one, just to misty. You can probably see that. And now I'm gonna go in with the blue, nice broad strokes, working quickly so it doesn't dry. And what I might do is just put a little bit of light red down the bottom, just to make it grey it out slightly. I'm going to go over the chimney pots. A little bit more cerulean blue in the mix. Over the chimney pots, and go over the trees. I don't really care about that. So I'm just blocking in that sky. Just use my brush. I could have painted left clouds in there, but we're going to keep it really simple, and we're going to help everybody get started. Okay, so there's the sky done. Wasn't too painful, was it? Just soften these edges. By use that mister bottle, I get nice soft edges. I don't get any hard edges. So now all of a sudden we can start seeing the house is starting to stand out there, isn't it? It's starting to look more like a structure. Because what we might do also is just go down here, put a little bit more light red in the blue, make it out a bit, and just put some. Toby's barking, I do apologise for that. I don't know why. And just put some watercolour for the water. Just think water, move your brush around, be descriptive. And that's that. Now I'm just going to let that dry for a minute. I'm not going to do anything else until that's dried. So it's a little bit of cobalt blue with cerulean blue for the sky, a touch of light red at the bottom, and the same for the water. Okay, now we'll move on to the next stage. Now I want to paint the roof of the house. So simply for that, I'm going to take some raw sienna, because it's like those terracotta red tiles. Now you've got to be careful you don't paint these things too bright. I often see them looking really orange and bright. Maybe sometimes these things do look orange and bright in real life, but for some reason it doesn't look real. It doesn't look right in a painting. So sometimes it's better just to mute it down a bit. So we're just going to mix up a colour here, which I think is half decent. And sometimes I think getting the approximate colour is better than sort of becoming too obsessed about getting the right colour. Scrap paper. You know, and you can just test it out, can't you? You know, I can add a bit more red, maybe a bit of cadmium yellow to it, and I can then work out whether I think it's the right strength. So that's too orange for me, much too orange. So a little bit more red, a little bit more raw sienna. Yeah, I quite like that colour. That will do. So I move my paint palette over. So I've mixed the colour for the roof of the cottage. And I'm just going to use my flat 1/2 inch brush we talked about. And carefully, I might just sort of pop it on the chimney as well, because the chimney's terracotta, sort of red brick. So that would be fine. So I'm just carefully going on the roof like that. Now if you just paint it flat colour, it's going to look a bit boring like that. So what I'm going to do, if you look at it, when I look at the picture I can see it's got lots of colours in it, lots of cooler colours. So I'm just going to get a little bit of cobalt blue with a little bit of cadmium red, just a touch. So it grays out. I'm just going to drop it in, just so it makes it look more interesting, especially where it goes behind the tree here, because if you're not careful it will shout out too much behind the tree. So we're just going to fade that out, because the tree is going to, we need to know it's there, especially at the end here, because you can see more of the roof popping out. So it's just two colours. Well, we had the mix, raw sienna, cadmium red, and then when we put the mixture on the roof, we're just adding a little bit of cobalt blue just to give it interest. And we're just going to paint in that roof like that, and eventually we're going to and just soften the roof around them, because obviously we're going to put our tree there soon, so we don't want to paint over that too hard, or else it's just going to look wrong when we paint our tree in. So that's that. You know, we could then get a little bit of burnt umber maybe, and a bit of cobalt blue, so that makes a nice grey. I'm looking at the picture and there's a bit of weathery look down here, and it just helps it all look a bit more natural. But you can all you got to do is drop the colour in and let it spread out by itself. You haven't got to do much to it. Now, this side of the cottage is going to be in shadow. The light's coming this way, so we've got to think about putting some shadow down at the front here. So we'll do that at the same time, so that roof colour can run into the blue. Now, if people think this is if it's too complicated for beginners watercolour, let me know. But you can simplify it just by not, just painting in the overall shapes. The base I'm just painting in. Now, to want to warm that up slightly, because I know there's warmth in that stone, over the trees. That's fine to do there. Just keep the paint moving. Basically, just don't worry about it too much. If it all works out really badly wrong, it's only a piece of paper. That's why I look at it. And believe me, it works out badly wrong lots of the time. You never... there we go. So we painted in the roof and the side of the cottage, and we'll just let that sit there for a minute. What we might do, there's across here, that's like a tin fence. Well, they've got kind of like I can use the same colour for that, I think, as I used on the roof. So I'm just going to go across here with my flat brush, because I know it's adding some blue at the same time to grey it out slightly. And that's all you got to do. We're blocking in the shapes. Now later we'll come back and we'll put the darks in, and that's when the painting will come to life, when we start putting the darks back in. Because at the moment the painting's got no impact at all. There we go. So that's the fence done. Now let's think about some of the greenery. So we've basically done the roof and the fence and the side there all the same colour. We just used more cobalt blue in the shadow side of the house, and for the roof we've used raw sienna, burnt sienna and a touch of cadmium red. Alright, let's get another brush. Now before that dries, what I want to do is, always sounds very complicated when you're explaining it, but when you're doing it, it's not nearly as complicated. A bit of burnt sienna, a little bit of cobalt blue, so you almost get like a, let me show you, so don't drip it on the painting. So you've almost got a bluey black, so that's cobalt blue and burnt sienna mixed together. Just splatter the painting. Okay, Now I can see that this is nice for under the guttering. Now, but just before this dries, I want to put this in. I don't want to put it in too soon, because what will happen, it will run too much. I just want it to run, I want to control the run a little bit. That's quite good. Okay, we'll just leave that for a minute. Then I'm going to go back to the rigger brush that I showed you. This one. And I'm going to put more blue on it. So I've got a really almost black, it looks almost like a warm black. And I'm just going to go back into it again to draw some more detail. And that's it. That's all you've got to do. And on the other side of the roof, I'm just drawing the brush down quickly to draw in that shadow on that side of the roof. That will do. Right, let's get back to the green. Let that dry and we'll get back to the green. So I'm going to mix some lemon yellow with some cobalt blue until you get what you think is the green you need. I'm just going to put a touch of light red in it to mute it down a little bit, and I'm just going to paint in around the cottage, just using the brush on the side descriptively to paint in some of the foliage. Just varying the colours as I work my way around, sometimes adding more yellow. But you know, a lot of this will just come with experience, so don't beat yourself up over it. You know, it's not something you're going to learn overnight, but it's a start. So I'm just working the greens around. What I can then do is I can think, well, I'm going to need some darker greens shortly. So I'll get some darker green mixed up. A little bit of blue, a little bit of yellow, lemon yellow, and a little bit of red. A bit more blue to cool it down. And I look where the shadows are. Instead of trying to paint every leaf, I know there's a shadow in there. So I'm just going to drop that colour in and let the dampness of the paper do the work for me. When it's dry, if there's any hard details, I can go back and describe them later. But right now I'm letting the wetness of the paper do the work for me. A little bit more blue, a little bit more red to get as dark a colour as I think I need. Because without the dark, sorry, you don't make the lights, as they say. So we'll just leave that like that for a minute. That's quite nice. Now, a little bit of cerulean blue gives us a nice cool blue, cool green, sorry, but also quite full of colour. Don't want a lot of it. It's just a nice cool area here. The secret is not to keep the same colour moving around the page all the time, is to keep it varied. That makes sense. Right, so where are we now? So I can see a nice, the sun's hitting the grass here on this bank, so I'm going to make that sunny. And then it's getting a bit cooler as it comes down here, so adding a bit. I'm kind of thinking the way the grass is growing. I don't mind the green running into the fence because it's softening the edge, and as far as I'm concerned that's fine. And as it tumbles over towards the water, I'm just obviously drawing with the brush. I'm using the brush to do the work. And I was saying about how the fine points you can get. You could do so much work with one brush. Now as it gets down here again, I'm going to warm it up with some raw sienna, because as it's coming closer to me it needs to become warmer, and it wants to become warmer. I can see it in the mix, I can see it. A little bit of yellow, lemon yellow, and a bit of raw sienna, and maybe a touch of magenta, because there's some pinks in there. You don't want to miss those opportunities to get those magenta colours in the picture. Some there. It's really all about looking hard to see what you can see. And there's some nice cool greens. Again, a bit earthy, but that's fine. And then as we come down this corner, we're going to go back to the cerulean blue to make that nice cooler green, because cerulean's a nice greeny blue. I'm going to just bring some, and I'm going to get some lemon yellow and do it straight on the page. So I'm keeping these washes, we're keeping a fluid wash moving across the page and just working our way around, changing the colours within the wash as we go. When we put the darks in, that's when we'll get that counter change throughout the painting of lights and darks. At the moment it's all kind of one colour. Now down this side it's very cold, there's a lot of shadow, so I'm going for the cool blues. There's some grass that comes up here, and I'm just going to keep it simple, using the cool colours to describe it. And I'm going to come back to the wall across here. When that's dried I'll cut it in around. Now there's a nice, what I might do now, it really is deep in shadow here. Want some alizarin crimson, some blue, and I'm just going to pop these in now. So I'm looking at the darks, so basically just getting an overall work of the painting where the darks are, and you're just painting them in. You know, this does take experience and it does take time to learn, but it's all there, you know, to develop this. And it's just about looking at the picture and then responding to what you see, where the lights and darks are. I've just got to bear in mind, when you paint directly like this, you get only one opportunity, because once you've done this you can't go back. You're committed. So we're just working our way down, and I can see the greens are dark. I want to mix them on the page if I can, because that way you get the freshest mixes. You know. So if I go silent, sometimes you go into kind of like a think mode, what you're doing. Okay, so now I'm going to mix some cobalt blue and alizarin. What I'm going to do, I might do to accompany this video, is a much more simplified version, if that was help, if that would help anybody. But really, you don't want to just go simple too much. You want to push yourself. So every time you start painting, you want to push yourself to the next, because that is really what it's all about. Now we've got to remember we've got some nice light greens reflecting that water. And some stone off the wall there's going to be. So I'm just thinking about that now. Now I'm going to some burnt umber to make a dark grey with some cobalt blue, and I'm just going to lay that in across here. Then what I'm going to do then is, for the reflection of the house, I'm just going to lift some of this colour out. It's a nice soft shadow of the house, reflection of the house. So I'm just drying the brush out and lifting the colour out. Perfect. That's all I wanted. If you want to get a bit more, you could dampen the paper, come back and lift out again. So you see how I'm lifting the colour out, just to sort of get that slight reflection of the diffused reflection of the cottage in the water. I hope that's all making some sense. What we'll do now, we'll just pop this tree in. I'm just using the tip of the brush just to describe the tree. Nice and loosely. And then before it dries, what we'll do, get a rigger brush, excuse me, and we'll just run in these a smaller brush, and just go back in before it dries and put it in the shadows and get some leaf shapes out of it. And there we go, really, that's it. Okay, right, now we'll move on to these background shapes across here. The trees in the background. We'll keep those quite cool and not worry about them too much, because they're just there for and we'll go back into them as they dry. Right, so what we got to do now, I think the best thing we can do is wait for things to dry a bit, so have a quick break. Okay, right, I'm just going to now just put in these railings, some railings that run back down through here, and I'm just going to, they kind of disappear behind grass, so I'm just going to indicate them. I'm not doing much, just I'm making sure I get the slope of the perspective right, but again that's not too crucial really. We're looking for an impression. I'm not going to do much more than that with them. I think you could fiddle too much with those and it would look wrong. Let it go because it's just drying. I'm just going to put some shadows in, but nice soft diffuse ones because they're in the distance and I don't want to be confusing it all with the foreground. I want to keep it as loose as possible. There's a slight one there. Right, now I've got to, there's some shadows in here I've got to think about. Obviously you'll see a copy of this painting close up, and I'll photograph the stages so you can have a much slower review of it than you're getting now, because you can obviously only paint at one speed. And then the tree is casting quite a nice shadow back here. The tree must get in now, and slightly on the other side. Kind of like that. So basically, instead of actually sort of thinking what I'm painting, all I'm doing is painting the light and dark I see in the picture. I'm not worried too much about the what it actually is I'm painting. I'll enjoy that at a later date, but at the moment I'm just sort of like putting in the lights and darks as I see them. I squint hard and I just look for the overall shapes. Just pop that in. There's one on the other side there. Then I'll add some other colours to it. Oh, it's a bit pink, isn't it? Put a bit of blue in it because that tones it down. The blue is a great toner. That's better. But we want some of the warmth, the brighter colours, but not quite as bright as I do. More blue. Make a nice purple with that magenta. So again, you know, you just look at the overall shape and painting it in, and changing it as you need to, because we, as artists, we do design as well. Sometimes we can't improve on nature because nature is nature and it's at its best, whatever it is. But sometimes the design of something has to be changed because it just works better in a painting. But what we've got to really think about now is there's some very nice shadows around here. But what we might do is there's some foliage here at the top I want to get in. It's very light. I don't want to be... Can you see that? I'm just using the tip of the brush. I'm asking is if you can... And it's just very feathery. And I just want to put it in. But, you know, if I'm not getting it exactly as it is in the picture, I'm not really bothered. Because the scene is still there in my head. You know, you still have the pleasure, especially when you're out painting from nature. I mean, when you're outside, that's the time to. It's just a fantastic time to paint. And again, it's that nice. Behind this one, I'm just gonna. It's quite blue actually. Oh yeah, I forgot to show you one other thing I've got. I got this stick. It's an old stair rod, in fact, and I tend to. I don't know. I sometimes I find it just easier if you're doing something. I just put it across my painting and I can rest my hand on it over the painting. I use this finger then to support myself. And for instance, when I just want to put the shadows in these windows, I can just do it quite effectively without straining and sort of making it uncomfortable. Like that. Something like that. So it's quite a useful thing to have in your studio if you've got something you can lean on. Just a piece of wood, a ruler. That's obviously not going to break. A bit of red showing through there in the brickwork. But we'll come back to that in a minute because we need to put some wash on that. Lemon yellow and alizarin crimson. Right, it's going to be predominantly cobalt blue and predominantly alizarin crimson, though he puts his brush in the magenta, but who cares. Get the cobalt blue out. And make this nice deep purpley greeny. Right, so I'm just going to start looking where the darks are. I'm going to start sketching it in. And I'm always using sort of neat, I can really see the blue. I'm dropping almost blue into the shadows in places now. Can you see? I hope you can see that. But just by so basically I'm just by doing that I'm keeping the colours really varied and not boringly the same. So it's just it's an important part of the painting. So I just want to make sure I get that in right. So it's times when you'll find you're concentrating more at some points than others within the painting. And this is one of those times. Because with colours as dark as this, you don't get a second chance. You really don't. But you want to also make sure you're preserving any highlights that need to, bright areas that need to be preserved. In a minute I have to go really light. Just to keep it as you want to keep it. I hope that's making sense. So, right. Now I'm just trying to draw in the grasses. Where they are. But I'm not trying to, draw in every blade of grass. I'm just trying to give an impression of what's there, because I would get bored very quickly if I had to sit here trying to draw in every grass. I want to paint the scene, yeah, of course I do, but I also want to do it in a way which is not going to send me doolally. Toby's going to start barking again. Do apologise. So there we go. These are the washes we put down earlier. Now we're just going back over, trying to do a mixture of getting in the darks and also preserving some of the lights. Right, now we're just going to put some more shadows in these in this tree. Warm it up slightly. Just on the bottom layers. Give it a bit of texture. Nothing too much. And up in the centre. Now we have to look at these bushes here, because they've got no shadows on them and they need the so it's a bit of yellow. Kind of went up over the wall. Slightly bluer there. And then even more blue here. So basically you're just doing darker versions of the colours you've got on the page already for the shadows. That's the way I'm working it today. Keeping it really then this one's slightly redder, so we can tone that down a little bit with cobalt blue. Add some alizarin and a bit more blue because that's too red. And then we can put the shadows in for this. So just, just look for where the shadows are and do the approximate, and just get the what we'll do afterwards, we'll come in and put some shadows on that wall, because there would be some. Shadows across there. And then where we've got these rushes down here, we're just gonna not mess about too much with those. Just indicate those with a brush like that. Basically just paint as freely as you can. it'll either be good or awful. But whatever it is, you'll have learnt a lot in the process. I think that's what you've got to remember. You could do a bad painting, but you can still teach you an awful lot in the process of producing a bad painting, and that is really well worth remembering. That's what you've got to remember. We're all learning. I do. And it's a big learning curve. Can just really let you. Doesn't matter really what happens. It's just the fun is creating with paint and having a good time, because sometimes it will be good, sometimes it will be pretty bad, but it doesn't matter, because the whole we're having fun just doing the actual painting. Smudging that a bit with my finger. And then just some more marks to indicate the grass. Okay, I think that's about it. There's not a lot more I can do, just you know, have a little fiddle around, and as you do at the end of a painting. I hope you've got something from that. Now's your opportunity to ask questions, to paint the picture. It doesn't matter if you want to take a more simplified version of that painting and have a go at it using just the 3 colours, or you want to try and do it your own style or whatever. But it would be great to see what you're doing, and post the pictures so we can have a good look and discuss how your work's getting on, because that's what it's all about. We're going to share this stuff and learn more about painting. It's a journey that you never stop learning on, so I'm looking forward to seeing what you've produced and what you get from it and what you've learned from it. Some of you might not have learned anything. It might be completely opposite to how you want to paint, but have a go and let's see how it turns out. So well, thanks for sitting through the video, or as much of it you watched. It's great to flick back and forth, and it's there for you to use whenever you need. So thanks for watching, and get ready for the next one.